The J. Michaels Show.
Welcome to the show. We have a wonderful artist for you this week. He's a multi-instrumentalist from Las Cruces, New Mexico, and he is performing literally all over the country sometimes. Let's meet Randy Granger. Hey, Randy.
Hey, J. Michael. It's so good to be on your show. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. Well, let's get into it. Oh, I need to do one little technical thing here. Move me out of the way. Let's get into it. You are doing music for film and your own recordings, your own CDs. But one thing that I wanted to ask you about, you are a multi-instrumentalist, and I know that you play the handpan and tongue drums and the Native American style flute. I wanted you to, for the audience that doesn't know what a handpan is, tell them what that is.
Yeah, the handpan, it was invented in about the year 2000, and it was initially called the hung, spelled H-A-N-G, and it was invented by these steel pan makers who have been doing that for many, many years, like over 25 years, from Bern, Switzerland. And so this hand percussionist approached them and said, can you make an instrument that sounds like the steel pan, but I can play with my hands? And so they got to work on it. They came up with this great patented process. And so the handpan is a steel melodic instrument that you do play with your fingers, with your hands, with your thumb, and with the palm of your hand in some cases. It's a beautiful sound. It reminds people of a lot of the work that Hans Zimmer did way back when. And so I've been able to combine that with Native American flutes and with voice and didgeridoo and some spoken word and other instruments. And I'm just so grateful that I came across it probably in about the year 2006 first, and then I ordered one back when you could order one from that company.
Mm-hmm. As a multi-instrumentalist, your music has been played on NPR, Hearts of Space, lots of other radio stations such as that. Describe your music and what it is. Describe your music for the listener.
Sure. First of all, the music that I record, that I put on like the last 13 albums, it is it's acoustic music, and I don't really sample anything, and when I make recordings, I really tend to do the like live take method. So I'm not doing very much patching, but so my music, it is acoustic music, and I would really call it maybe Southwest world music, because I borrow a lot of instruments and influences from the Southwest where I live, like drums, Native American flute, and my particular style of singing, and some guitar. And it's also based in world music in the sense of African rhythms, maybe the Australian instruments, maybe stuff from European music too. So it's very much based in the world music. Some people also call my style of music ambient music, and that's just a tag that we use to try to let people know when they go looking for some music that they want to mellow out to, that they want to do yoga, they want to use in hospice and meditate, even to fall asleep, which I'm not offended in the least by.
Well, you've had your music, as I said before, you've had your music on several films as well as NPR. You have several albums out, Ancient Grace, Strong Medicine, Cloudwalker, The Roswell Incident, which I would be very interested in hearing you talk about that. And so all of these albums that you have, are you working on something new now?
I am. Some of the music I'm working with now, a few years ago, I started to play the cigar box dobro. So it's a real swampy, bluesy type of instrument based on the cigar box. But it has a resonator in the middle of the body of the instrument. So it really gives you that slide, that real swampy blues sound. And I've been using that with drums and with vocals, and playing a little bit of on it too. And my own style of like Southwest blues. So yeah, I am working on quite. I'm actually about 5 albums behind. COVID kind of did a loop on everybody, it seems. But
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to crank. It out and make it good sounding and make it true. True to myself as an artist.
Now, you have Native American roots, right? You're part Apache. What else?
Choltan, which is a subset of the Mayan people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about having a Native American ancestry, we didn't always have borders, and we didn't keep records like say the Mormons would, and so I would ask all of my older relatives, hey, what is our lineage? And they didn't want to talk about it. I think they had a sense of shame that they didn't necessarily want to be seen as Native American, but they were trying to be seen as Americans.
Mm-hmm.
That was the mentality back then. So I had to do quite a few different ancestry type processes, and that I was able to find out my actual bloodline. That it's mostly Mayan with some Apache, some Dog Rib, and of course Athabascan, which is a really big group.
One of your albums, one of my favorite, is Strong Medicine. It's a beautiful album, and I would like for you to talk about what inspired that album and your own personal history of what happened to make you come up with Strong Medicine.
Sure, and thank you for saying that. That's really one of my favorite albums that I've been able to put out also. And what happened was that I had to step back from music. I had an album that just came out, but then my partner at the time developed stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and it was inoperable. So kind of knew that process was coming along,
Mm-hmm.
and so we would go to chemotherapy. And I would listen to the chemo pumps, and they had this particular rhythm. And so the next time I came there, I brought my little handheld Zoom recorder, and I was recording the Zoom of the chemo pump. And so they asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm a musician, and I'm just really fascinated by this sound." And so that particular sound, the way that it starts out with a chicka 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 with a rhythm, and then it has those beeps in there. I heard drums, and then I heard flute. And so I morphed that song. If you listen to that particular song, it actually starts out with that chemo pump, and it turns into rhythm, and then it turns into flute, and then it turns into a song called Strong Medicine. Strong Medicine, the actual song of the album, it chronicles the entire process from like diagnosis or when we were happy, when we were in our happy days prior to the cancer, and it chronicles going from acceptance to sadness, and then deep peace, and then letting things go. And so, me being a musician, it was just my way to share my story, because the thing about music is very personal, but when you record it and you write it, it becomes universal. And so that's what I was trying to help other people go into that process of saying, I went through this, and this is how I persevered, and how we have to have some strong medicine to sometimes get us through the more challenging parts of life.
Are there any particular stories involving each song on the album?
Yeah, like let me think, the song "Awakened Dreamer." It was kind of like the at one point I had this vision of what happens whenever we cross over, and it was like there was gold dust in the air. So if you listen to that song, it kind of talks about that. And that chord structure that I use for "Awakened Dreamer" is the exact same chord structure that I use for the song Strong Medicine. And so I just kind of make it go into that. And then there's one song on there called the Radical Fairies Morphine Drip, because if you've ever seen anyone on morphine, or you talk to them on the drips, they hallucinate, and they were saying, it's like there's these little beings, and as soon as that morphine drip kicks into the bloodstream, it it's like there's these little light beams going throughout the whole body. And I thought, I think that would make a good song. And then one song on there is called the Hospital Stairwell Blues, because when we were in the hospital, and I'd bring my flutes just like we all do, bring my instruments with me, and I would go into the stairwell because, as you know, stairwells have great acoustics, and so I'd be in there just playing, and then I would look up and there'd be people, listening to me. I didn't realize they were even there. So it's a very personal kind of experience, those songs. But like I said, I was really trying to make them universal, and because I'm a storyteller, and I'm always trying to tell story through my music, through my lyrics, through my instrument choice, and that's kind of how that came to be.
After doing strong medicine, you began working with hospice. Talk to me a little about hospice and playing at hospice, and what it means for you.
Sure. By the time I did strong medicine, I had already been, playing at hospice for a few years, and so towards the end, we actually called in hospice, and I called in the best staff that I had been working with there at the hospice as a volunteer, and so that was kind of a neat experience. Just part of playing in hospice has always been real important to me. I really believe we all need to have some kind of call to service, whether that's looking in on your older neighbors or your ill neighbors, or doing soup kitchen work or free work for other people. Just find some way to make sure that you are giving back the talents that you've been giving, and just to kind of keep that loop going. So hospice for me, I played the flute in hospice, and I've also played the handpan and tongue drums too. And it's so important for me to watch people that are in pain. You can see the pain on their face and in their body, and you start playing music for them, and you can see them relax. And everybody, the nursing staff, they also relax too. And so I think it's a very important aspect of music, because Native American flute, it's very, very healing, and at least that has been my experience. So I just love being part of that. And every once in a while, we do what we call sitting vigil, when you sit with someone who maybe doesn't have loved ones close by, and we just take turns sitting with them for an hour or two. And I like being with people at that stage, because they often see the other people in the room that you don't see. They're calling out names of people. And when you're with someone, whenever they pass, when you're playing music, the whole room changes. It's almost like you're witnessing this opening. Mm-hmm. And it's so natural, and it's beautiful. And it's that is not to say that like death is always peaceful the way it is on film. Sometimes it's just really, really nasty and kind of tough to watch. But there's a surrender there that I find comforting.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little about your own personal spirituality, your meditation, your techniques that you use, and what spirituality means to you.
I think spirituality is, to me, it's really a recognition of humility, that I didn't make this body, I didn't make this planet, I didn't create the cosmos and everything going on within my body, but it's just a recognition of humility, that there is an intelligence greater than I am, that I can tap into every once in a while when I'm in that space of humbleness, really. And so my spiritual practice is, every morning I always start with just saying thank you. Thank you for another day. And I am not saying thank you to anyone in particular. Just an acknowledge of saying, okay, you have another day to do something right. You have another day to practice kindness, to practice patience and tolerance. And I also meditate every morning in silence. And then I also like smudge, and I also thank all the best of my ancestors. And I thank you for the sacrifices and the perseverance that I'm here now. And it's a pretty involved process, and I find that really keeps me grounded, because when I'm on the road and I don't always get a chance to do it, I find that I really feel it. That I'm a little more intolerant, a little more impatient, and I'm also a minister, and I also teach. I teach meditation at my house, along with drumming, and so I really always talk about Native American creation stories, because they always have some great parables, some great lesson in them. And then I'll work that into a whole sermon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really kind of based in just a real, positive spirituality. It's not based on any one religious, background. But so keeping myself humble, keeping myself grounded, keeping myself authentic, but mostly keeping myself grateful. I find that that's just a really good policy,
mm-hmm.
whether you want to call it spirituality or just living well.
Uh-huh. Do you believe that the Native American flute is a healing flute, and how does that work in your hospice?
Yes, and I think the Native American flute, one of the reasons that it's so healing that I have found is because it's so close to the human voice in its timbre and in its pitch, and people can hear you breathe, and people can hear your emotional state. Like, for instance, if I'm in the studio and I'm doing some solo flute music, I stay away from caffeine for a whole week. The reason is you can hear your heartbeat rhythm within the flute sound, the where you don't necessarily want it. So it's definitely healing, because I think it really allows for people to focus on something outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like when somebody plays a harp, it's that same kind of feeling. But the flute is really close to the human voice. And I tell you, there was this one Christmas day that I went down to hospice, and I had just had I had a death a few months earlier, so I was feeling real self-pity, and I was feeling kind of down. So I went into hospice, and I'm playing Christmas songs, and everything, and I didn't think anyone even was really listening to me, or that anyone even really heard me. And so I'm leaving hospice, and this doctor runs after me, and he says, hey, we have to tell you something. I said, oh, did I do something wrong? And he said, no. He said, 4 of our patients were really having a hard time letting go, and I want you to know that hour that you played, 4 of them, passed while you were playing. And so I was silent for a little bit, and then I said, I didn't know I was that bad, and he laughed, because you have to have some kind of gallows humor
right.
at some point to be doing that kind of work. So it's shown to me over and over again that playing the flute, it touches up. The thing about music in general is it bypasses our thinking brain. It goes to our limbic system, to our emotional core.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about it like when you're at a funeral and it's beautiful and people are saying good words, but as soon as that bagpipe starts to play Amazing Grace, that's when everybody loses it, because it allows for that release, and it kind of creates that space of being able to just release.
Mm-hmm. Is the Native American flute difficult to play?
To play well, it is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think because it's set up on what's called the pentatonic scale, which all of the pentatonic scale is, if you look at a piano, it's the black keys. It's those 5 notes.
Mm-hmm.
The pentatonic scale is been in use by Greek culture, Chinese, so many cultures, and it's a very soothing scale. It's a scale that is easy on the ears, and so modern Native American flutes mostly have that pentatonic scale that's built into it. So it's really not that difficult to get some good sounds, but to express your emotions, that's a whole other thing that one really needs to work on, and needs to spend time with their breathing, with their emotional state. Whenever I teach flute students to play the native flute, I always have them looking at the flute first, smelling the wood, feeling what it feels like, and saying thank you to the flute to get some sort of reverence. Don't just pick it up and start blowing into it, but really give it some respect, and it'll treat you well.
Well, Randy, you have won so many awards, Indian Summer Music Awards. You've been a winner at NAMMYs, or you've been nominated, and that led to a film that you've worked on called American Buffalo, and I want you to tell us how that came about and your experience working on that film.
Sure. The way that came about is, it's several steps, and one is the first is that I recorded music and I put it out into the world. So you have to have, you want to get your music heard, you have to go where people listen to it. And so from my understanding, the music editor who chose my 6 songs for the American Buffalo film, he was in the process of selecting songs that were going to go along with that that 4-hour film, and he wasn't finding anything in his usual sources. He went to this publishing company, to this music house, to this source and that source, and he came across one of my songs. I can't remember which one it was right now. It may have been the Dog Star from a place called Peace, my album, and then he just discovered more and more and more, and he heard something in my music that fit what he was looking for in that particular film. And, I'm just so grateful about that. But so then they had contacted me and said, we want to license 6 of your songs, and we're going to use them throughout the, films. And they asked me, are those your songs? Is that your original music? And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I had more. And so they chose those songs, and I didn't really know where they were going to go in the film. I had no idea which scenes that they were going to be part of. And so I was just really excited and humbled, but also kind of validated. When you work just so long as a musician and somebody hears your music that resonates with these people at this caliber was just really humbling. I have lots of my music in a lot of films, a lot of independent films, a lot of documentaries. It's also used in museums and all kinds. There's even a jail that it's used in too. I can't remember which one it is. So over the years, I've been in so many different films, but never at this particular level. And so I was really excited, and so I had the opportunity to go up to Missoula, Montana. They were going to do a preview about it. It's like a 50-minute preview of American Buffalo for the first time. And so Ken Burns was there, the writer, the executive, the producer was there. Some of the people from the film were also there. So it was just a beautiful experience. And then I went over to the National Bison Range, which is really close by on, I think it's either Flathead or Salish land, and that was really powerful. So to be able to be part of that and to watch that film and see my name come up and hear my music was pretty incredible. But when I went to that preview up there I am sitting in this packed old theater, and we're watching the first clip, that they put together that was about 15 minutes, and I hadn't heard any of my songs yet. And then at the very end, they show the birth of the white buffalo, and then I hear my song coming up, and it's like I left my body. That kind of experience is just incredible. And people started crying when they heard it. They didn't know it was me or anything, but they were crying. People started crying at that particular scene with that song, and I thought, this is as good as it gets, and I'd like more. But so it was just such a validation, such a sense that, because when I record my music, it's just me. It's me, and I'm doing the production and the engineering, and I also write the songs. So no one's telling me, well, why don't you make that song? Like, I have worked with promoters, and they've told me, you need to put more chanting, or you need to put more this, or you need to put more rattles. And I'm thinking, well, I don't need to do anything except what I feel in my heart and in my soul. And so that's just a beautiful, feeling.
Yeah, American Buffalo is a Ken Burns production. You met Ken. Did you play flute for him?
No, there were too many people. It was packed, and there was a giant. People love their work, and what I also found out is that writer, Duncan, and the producer Julie, they've been working with Ken Burns for 30 years, doing films. This American Buffalo was their final project together as a team. And so they were all very emotional, and it was a really powerful thing to hear them talk about their creative process. But it was their last film, so everybody wanted to talk to them. So I just said hi and said thank you.
Do you happen to know if American Buffalo has won any awards itself?
I don't know yet. That would be nice to know. It's certainly one of the things that they talked about, that Ken and his team, that they talked about American Buffalo. They said, this is a film we've been working on for 30 years, but they didn't have the right access to the Native people and the Native story, and they really wanted to make that central, because it is really central with the American Buffalo. So, that would be great if it won some awards. They are more than deserving. They work so hard, such a work ethic. It's just great. And, I'd love to do it again if they ever, have some other kind of music they need. But, one of the things that I was really proud about that I didn't realize until a little bit later was they used one of my handpan songs from the Roswell Incident album. As far as I know, it's the only handpan music I've ever heard in a Ken Burns film. And so I was really, really proud of that.
Wow. Of all of your music, do you have a favorite yourself?
No. It just depends on what part of the country I'm driving through, or what kind of mood that I find myself in. But I am a songwriter, and I've always been a songwriter. Prior to playing the Native American flute, which I started that in about 2004. But prior to that, I had been making albums and been touring and writing songs, and so I'm definitely a songwriter. And so one of the albums that I'm working on now is more my singer-songwriter style. And one of the songs that I've written for is a song called Buffalo Dreaming, where I have the slide guitar, the cigar box dobro, and drums, and some lyrics, and some voice and flute. So it's just a culmination of what I'm already doing. But I love singing, because I think singing is just such an expressive art form.
Do all of these instruments work well together? You're going from a steel type handpan to a very melodic Native American flute, and then of course you have rattles, and then into a dobro. How do you mix it? How do you make it work?
I think it's just a matter, when I write songs, it's like I can hear the entire song in my head, and I don't always know what the instrument is, but I can hear a certain quality. I can hear like either a haunting sound, or a sharp edge sound, or a melodic sound. So I'll look at the instruments that I have. I have a dulcimer too, a hammered dulcimer, and I think I put that on about 3 songs on strong medicine. And so I want to do more with that too. And I also played the Irish drum, the boron, and I love playing that solo and singing along with it too. So it just depends. I think it's like any composer when they're writing something out for a string orchestra maybe, and they're thinking, okay, well, this is where the bassoon comes in, because I want something a little more serious, a little more meaty, a little more menacing, and then I'll put a piccolo over here, or I'll put the viola here because it's closer to the human voice. And so it's really the same thing. And I actually do come from a classical music background, and so I think that has really kind of settled in me at some point.
I'm not sure what happened, but while you were talking, your audio changed. It was a little tinny and it corrected itself. So kind of glad of
Okay,
that.
sorry about that.
Just saying that we don't know what that was. It was just something technical to not to worry
Wow.
about it. But I do want to ask you about the Roswell incident. What inspired that album? Do you believe in UFOs? And just talk to me about the Roswell incident.
The Roswell incident, because I come from New Mexico, and I was actually born in southeast New Mexico, about 2 hours probably southeast of Roswell, New Mexico, which is famous for the 1947 UFO crash. And when I first looked at that handpan, everybody kept telling me that looks just like a UFO because it does look like the classic UFO style. So on my album cover, I put this little alien toy on top of my handpan, and I called my album the Roswell Incident. And I got a little bit of flack for it, but that's okay. I don't mind.
Right.
I said, hey, I'm from New Mexico, so I had fun with that. I was just telling somebody earlier today that my mother, myself, and my younger sister chased several groups of UFOs in southern New Mexico. Whenever I was growing up, when I was a really young boy, we would chase them because
Wow.
we didn't know what they were, and we wanted to get a picture, with our little Polaroid cameras, but we never did. But there was a lot of activity growing up. Hobbs used to be. There was an Air Force base there, just like in Roswell. I think a lot of people don't realize that Roswell was the only nuclear air base in the world at one time. That's where if you watched Oppenheimer, so there was a lot of activity going on there and of interest to whomever, whether it's some other species, whether it's some other government. So there was a lot of secrecy. There was a lot of tests. There were things going on that only the highest level people knew about. When I think about the number of galaxies in that little Hubble shot, that little tiny, smaller than a postage stamp shot of night sky that they just trained Hubble to look into, and they saw these galaxies, and many of those galaxies, they're long gone. So I think it's hubris to think that we are the only intelligence in the entire cosmos. I don't know why we would think that. I don't even know where that comes from, really.
Right.
So I don't dismiss anything because I don't know.
Right.
Just like I don't know what happens after we leave this body, so therefore I can't really judge it. It's the same way that I think with other intelligences. But for them to find us, there's a song that I wrote about Sally Ride, the astronaut who died in the Challenger crash. I think I have this song that I wrote called "Ride Sally Ride," and I released it on one of my earlier albums called Sky Watching, where I'm talking about sky, and and part of those lyrics say we are a minor blue sphere near a minor league sun. We're in the suburbs of our particular Milky Way galaxy. So I am curious, and curiosity is what really drives me. And I don't know. I would like to know. I don't know that we have been contacted. I don't know what aliens look like. Of course, there's a whole culture around that.
Yeah.
The grays and the whites and the reptile, all kinds of stuff. I don't really know. I have no idea. But I do know that I have seen UFOs personally.
Wow.
In the traditional definition, I didn't know what it was in the sky that was flying around, doing things that didn't make sense, making 90-degree turns, and stuff. I don't know. I would like to know.
What is the Native American take on UFOs from your perspective?
So, of course, I really can't speak for all Native people, but there have been quite a few tribes that believe they were seeded by the Star People. They literally call
Hmm.
them the Star People. Um, if you look at petroglyphs and pictographs from cultures to the Aborigines to the people of the Amazon to the people here in the Southwest Desert, there are crafts. You could definitely see them as crafts, and there are people that are wearing these helmets that don't seem to make sense, And I think I think other dimensions and other realms are just a natural way of native people looking at the world. We don't know everything, so we're curious, and we know that life is vast and great, and we often call it the great mystery. And I
Hmm.
definitely love that term. It is the great mystery. So. But there are quite a few tribes that do call themselves that they were seeded by the Star People. So,
Right.
what does that mean? You'd have to really look into the lore. But part of the thing about Native Americans stopped sharing so much of their belief system because it was not a safe thing to do around some other cultures.
It's been appropriated too.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so you have this album that's the Roswell Incident. You've done a song Skywatching. How does this idea of extraterrestrials, if you will, influence your music?
I don't know that it does, but it's certainly I also talk about like things like morphine going into your body, like these crazy little fairy creatures that are
Hmm.
doing their work in there. So I really don't limit myself, and I really try not to. I try not to limit myself in boxes, and so if the idea of some other being or aliens or whomever pops into my consciousness when I'm writing a song, I try to let that flow out in a respectful way. So it's really, like I said, it's just like this new song that I have, Buffalo Dreaming. I'm talking about this me, or the character in the song is driving one night across the Great Plains, and there's a full moon, then all of a sudden there's a big thunder, like a million drums, and all of a sudden the character sees this buffalo herd go across the road, for like a 1 hour, just going across the road. But it's a ghost herd in the sense of it's a memory of that particular place. So that's what I mean. If it comes into my consciousness when I'm writing a song, I'm curious about it and I try to explore it.
I have had the opportunity to see you at a house concert, and it was just the only word that I can find to describe it was wonderful. You did so many different things with instruments. Talk to me about doing house concerts and what do they mean to you?
I remember that house concert. That was a beautiful setting, a beautiful little town. It was a great place, beautiful night. Uh, I like doing house concert. I don't do as many of them. Now I try to limit more so to the larger venues. But I've always enjoyed doing house concerts because they're very intimate. I mean,
Hmm.
you're just a few feet away from everybody, and everybody can talk to you prior and then afterwards. And what I'd like to think about house concerts in general is that they allow the audience and the musician to really create a moment that's never going to happen again, and
Hmm.
doing it together. The energy that I'm giving to you and that I'm getting back is it's special and it's magical and it's intimate, and the emotions are right there. Whereas when I do concerts, like for instance at White Sands National Park, which I'll be doing again this October for their full moon concert series. Well, those lights are so bright I can't see anybody or
Right.
anything. There's just there's a couple of thousand people that I'm playing to. I can't see a single one of them. So while I enjoy it, and I love doing that with a house concert, I see everybody, and I see the look on your face if you're into it, or maybe you're sleepy, or you're bored, or you're moved, and so it's a beautiful co-creative experience.
Wow. Okay, Randy. What's coming up on your calendar for this year? What do you have planned? What concerts, new album, whatever?
Yeah, I'll be let's see. Okay, I have White Sands National Park for the full moon concert series in October, and I'm really thrilled. In August, I am going to be a presenter
Hmm.
and part of the entertainment at the Unitarian Universalists Mu- um, Musicians Association. I think I may have got that name wrong, but anyway, they are the music directors for all of the Unitarian churches
Wow.
around the world, and they asked me, because they're going to be in Albuquerque, and they said we want someone to help us know how to work with native musicians. And so I'm going to try to do my best as far as that goes, and I'll be playing for that too. And let me see, I have I think Native Rhythms Festival in November,
Hmm.
and I have a couple other gigs that I right now just kind of blanking on. I'm keeping my calendar a little looser so I can finish recording, because when
Right.
you're on the road, it's not as easy to record and
Hmm.
to create music. So I really want to get this music out, because, like I said, during COVID, I had a backlog. So I'm really trying to let that creativity do what it needs to do through me.
Okay. And if someone wants to buy an album, a CD, a download, where would they go?
CDs are harder to get now because
Hmm.
most of the distributors have quit quit making them. But I have a you can go to my website, randygranger.net, and I do have places where you can still order the CD. But I also use Bandcamp. Bandcamp.com is what most the musicians now use. You can download one song, or you can download my entire catalog for,
Hmm.
like, I think it's $66. So and of course I'm on Apple, and I'm on Spotify, Pandora,
Hmm.
all those usual places.
And if somebody wanted to book a house concert or to see you perform, where's that information?
Sure, it's on my contact page on my website. Just zip me an email. That's really the best way.
Do you have a newsletter?
I'm not subscribed, and I'm as good as
Okay.
replying on Facebook and Instagram, because the people stuff. So through my website is definitely, I always pay attention to
Right.
the website.
And that's randygranger.net. Randy, thank you so much for
Correct.
being my guest.
Yeah.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this show. It's great talking to you.
Absolute pleasure, and I certainly hope we can cross paths really soon.
Yeah,
You're just cause you're just right next door, I think. Well,
well,
next state over.
I'm in Texas. You're in
Yeah.
Las Cruces, New Mexico, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, man, take care. We'll see you next
Thank
time
you.
on the J. Michael
Thank you.
Show.
Thank you, my friend. And keep up the great work.
Goodbye.